missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. In this week's episode, this client has virgin hair and she's wanting to do a lilac version of some gray blending. You can see she already has a little bit of purple that she was using overtone to refresh, but all of the gray that you see is her natural gray pattern, which is super pretty. So for her balayage, she wanted something that was very natural as far as blending the gray. So since she doesn't have too much gray in the back here, I am just going to be doing some baby lights. I am outlining her hairline first, and of course I started with my favorite. I'm using Blonde Me Sports Cough, and I mixed that with 6 and 20. So I went in and I'm just detailing her hairline a little bit. I did one baby light right at the hairline, and then my next section is slightly chunky weave with some negative space in between, so that section is probably about 1/4 inch above the last. So then after that foil, I'm going to do another diagonal back 1/4 inch up from this section, and it will also be a chunky weave with some dimension left in between. And then after that, I'm going to cap off this triangle section and just take a center part section up her head. So the center part section up her head that I'm going to be doing in the mohawk section of her head, I like to start doing it right around above the ears, like where the top of the ears meet, because everything below where the ears are, I do like to detail and have a lot of color there. And then after that, that's when I start taking that mohawk section, and here I am taking pretty chunky weaves for this part and leaving quite a bit of negative space just right in this triangle section. So as I just take the center part section, I am going all the way up to the top of the head, and again, these sections are going to be about 1/4 inch. I am doing chunkier weaves on the bottom, and then gradually as I work my way towards the top of the head, you'll notice that my weaves do get a little bit smaller just so that they become a little bit more blended. In the back of her head here, we wanted the color to gradually get a little darker as it gets towards the back. So since we're going to be doing a very bold, chunky money piece, I wanted this back just to have some color, just to kind of break it up just a little bit. I didn't want this back part to be super solid or anything. I just wanted a bit of dimension. So in this back section, I am doing just very little and minimal highlighting here, and this is going to be where you're going to be doing less is more, because this is going to create that nice dimension and give her the really pretty pops of color that kind of mimic her gray pattern. So since I'm taking this back section all in one go, pretty much just in one row, I will be hitting those sides that you see that is kind of left out there when I hit the sides of her head, when I do the front sections as well. And I find that this saves me a lot of time rather than splitting the back section into 2 sections where I have to do the right side and then the left side of the back. I find it's a lot easier for me to just do the back section all in one row and then hit the sides of that as I hit the front when I highlight the front sides. So at this point, I have probably already mixed up that bowl of Blonde Me and 20 volume, and I will be using just 20 volume for the rest of the head. And then after I'm done foiling, you'll see I'm just going to put her under the dryer just for a little bit, kind of just to mimic some body heat, just on some medium heat, just because my salon is super cold. We always have the ACs blasting, and if I don't put her under a little bit of heat just right on the ends, then the top part will process a little bit quicker. And I do find that this does happen on a lot of my clients who have hair past their shoulders. I like to just dip the ends of the foils in the dryer so that they process equally to the root, because sometimes the body heat from the scalp can make the top part of the foils process a little bit quicker. So you can see that top center section, I take it all the way up till where I can start to see where I want to add in her money piece. And for her money piece, we're going to be doing a very bold one. So I started off with just detailing her hairline first. I'm just doing a few slices on the side here and then moving on to each side before I go ahead and do the full money piece. I like to do this because I feel like it details the hairline very well. I feel like if I left this part out, then the front wouldn't be as bright. So you can see I did a few slices back to back, and now I'm going in and slicing her money piece all the way up until that her natural gray pattern kind of ends, which is really pretty. Also later, I didn't get this on film, but after I pretty much foiled her whole head, I went back in and just root tapped the root of these hairline money piece sections because she wanted the color just on the around her face to be all the way to the scalp. So as I did that, I kind of just moved the foils, flipped them back to back, and just kind of hit the root ever so slightly, and then made that process and just kind of kept an eye on it because sometimes that can process very quickly. So if it does, I do wipe that right away and then just kind of let the lightener air dry until the rest is ready to rinse everything out. Okay, so after I finished the money piece and detailing the whole hairline, now I'm going in and finishing off the sides. And you can see as I hit the sides here, I am hitting all the way back to that middle part section. And on the sides here, I'm going to be taking slices instead of thicker weaves with dimension in between because this is going to create more color. And since slices, you get more color out of your sectioning, this is going to create a very pretty gradient as the color meets the back. It's going to get slightly more dimensional as it goes closer to the back of the head. So essentially this is going to create a gradient from my highlighting technique since these slices are going to give more color, and then as it meets those chunky weaves towards the back, it is going to be more dimensional. Another thing that I didn't get on camera was that her foils did start to lift a little bit kind of on the pink side when I pulled out the foils. That was because of the overtone that she was putting in her hair. I don't know which overtone colors do this, but I've noticed from other like past clients as well that sometimes overtone can affect the virgin hair, not just like lightened hair. And when you go back to lighten it up, sometimes there is like a slight cast of color or whatnot. Sometimes it's been like red or pink. Hers was like a really pastel pink because we lifted her to about a level 9 and 10. And then once everything kind of processed to about a level 9 and 10, I rinsed everything out. And so this is me now going in with some Pulp Bright Liquid Demi, and I am just root shadowing the line of demarcation from the balayage pieces because later we are going to be putting on the Pulp Bright Semitone, and so this is going to give a really nice soft shadow root, and I opted to do this one because I wanted it to really blur out that line of demarcation really well, and I wanted it to fade out really pretty as well. Sometimes this just cancels out the warmth really well to where as it fades, it doesn't look as warm because the liquid demis do stay a little bit longer than the semi-permanent. So I wanted the shadow root to last a little bit longer, and I just felt like doing a shadow root, even though we're going to be doing a semi-color, is going to blend and mesh everything together really well. And for her shadow root formula, I am using 6-1 with some clear and just mix that with the regular Pulp Bright Liquid Demi developer. Also, as I'm doing the shadow root, I'm only doing the shadow root behind the money piece because the money piece is pretty much a full chunk all the way to the root, and I didn't want to shadow root that because I want the color to be nice and bright all the way to the scalp. But in the back here, once I was done rooting her with the shadow root, I let it process for about like 8 to 10 minutes, and then I shampooed her completely and then rough dried her about 80% before applying the semi-permanents. So before I apply the semi-permanent color, I wanted to show you her raw lift. So you can see her roots are nice and blended, and we gave her that beautiful money piece that kind of blends in with her natural gray. And we already shadow rooted her, so we are going to go back in with some semi-permanent to kind of make this a very beautiful pastel lilac tone. So for my application, I started to apply in the front, and I applied in the money piece area first and then the front 2 quadrants, and then I began to go in and start applying in the back here. And whenever I do apply just like one color all over the head using the Pulp Bright semis, I always like to do the front first and then move on to the back. And then when I get to the back, I like to do the top part of it first. That way if I get to the bottom back here and I need to remix my formulation, then I won't have to worry about making the formula mixtures exactly the same, because when I mix up the Pulp Bright semis, I like to eyeball it. So that way, if I do remix and it's slightly different, it's totally fine because it's going to be on the bottom part of this back part. And for my semi formulation, I mixed up from the Pulp Bright semis. I did a base of lilac with a little bit of elixir and some Nevermore, because we wanted it to be kind of like a smoky purple. And the base of it is lilac because lilac is a pastel purple, and so we wanted it to stay nice and light but have a lot of nice bright pigment. So that is why I added in a little bit of elixir, just to kind of make it a little bit deeper and brighter. So after I was done applying her semi color, I let this sit for about 25 minutes at room temperature and then rinsed her completely with some ice cold water. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. You can see how pastel and beautiful her money piece is and how well this placement really blends with her natural gray pattern. I feel like as this grows out, it's going to fade beautifully because the purple is going to fade into kind of like a silvery white tone before it fades back to blonde. I did send her home with a color balm, and the color balm I made it pretty similar to this tone of lilac, so that she can refresh her color at home instead with the color balm that I made her instead of the overtone, so that we don't run into that problem of her hair lifting pink again. But yeah, I'm curious to see when she will come back, because I feel like this is going to fade really pretty, especially since she has like that chunky natural gray money piece already. I feel like as this fades out, she's going to love it, and I'll probably see her maybe like once or twice every like year or so, because honestly, I feel like this will fade really pretty with her natural gray pattern. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.